This is Starforged, Tabula Rasa, written and performed by Redstone Archender. Based on the game by Shawn Tomkin. Hey, this is Redstone here. Just a quick warning before we start this behind-the-scenes episode of Starforged, Tabula Rasa. At the very end of the episode, we delve into our connection in the sector we create, and there are elements revealed that have not been revealed in the fiction yet. Not for a while. So, spoiler warning. Hello, and welcome to yet another behind-the-scenes episode of Starforged, Tabula Rasa. I am the creator and performer, whatever, Redstone Archender, and thank you for joining me this week as we finish our world building for Starforged, Tabula Rasa. We only have a couple things left to cover, and I'll be honest, I did record my creation of these things, but I got a little too into my own head and just kind of mumbled through it. So I'm going to go through after the fact, and I'll go into what roles were made and then what decisions I made with those roles. Let's begin with the ship itself. So for reference, I'm on page 98 of the preview edition. We're basically starting on the table giving the starship a history. Envision how you obtained or earned this starship. You can come up with your own origin, or roll, or pick from the table below, yada yada yada. Again, we're rolling everything for this, and I rolled a 55, which is granted by an organization or community. So we don't know what our main character does, or who they're affiliated with, but we know that when we find out what it is they do, this ship will be somehow connected with that. The next question is, who owns the starship? Well, I believe it's probably owned by that organization, so we will find out who, what that is later. So jump into the next one. Envision the starship. Your ship is an important aspect of your character, and a character in its own right. What does it look like? What makes it interesting or uniquely yours? Does it have any particular quirks? If nothing occurs to you now, you can flesh it out and play, or roll once or twice on the table below. And I decided to roll, because that's what we're doing, we're rolling. And the very first roll is a 4. An engine room is scorched with old burn marks. And the next roll is a 72, which is segmented landing gear unfold like gnarly spider legs. Alright, so that last one's a little creepy. Especially paired with the idea of these old burn marks. And the last bit on page 99 is actually name your starship, but I'm actually going to wait to name that, and I'm going to use an oracle table that's actually in the book on page 167, but I'm going to wait for that till we're actually in gameplay. Now, technically, that is the end of the build your own starship part, and the next step is actually choose. Step 6 on page 100 is choose your final asset. But we've already done the asset thing. We've already done step 7, which is choose your stats. But I still had a question about this ship, and part of it is I think a lot of things have been repurposed. A lot of things are kind of makeshift because we are in this future of scavenged, whatnot. So the question I have is, what is the original purpose of this ship? And I'm going to roll on the action and theme tables to give me just a hint of what was this ship originally, what was it built for, and we get a 27 on the action, which is create, and 54 on the theme, which is life. So the original purpose was to create life. For me, this immediately came to mind the idea that if you're in space, especially if there was like the Exodus fleet, you're going to have some sort of food production that's got to come along with you. You've got waste disposal and whatnot. And I imagine that they might have, this ship could have been basically a
food creator. And one of the things in my own personal life I've been looking into recently is aquaponics, which is a method for growing food. The basics of it is actually like hydroponics, where you have plants that actually sit in kind of like a rocky bed or some sort of medium that allows the roots to have some structure, and then you have water constantly filling and unfilling around the roots, and they supply all the nutrients that the roots need. But aquaponics takes this another step forward, so in order to get the nutrients into the water with hydroponics, usually you buy these big old jars, these big things of chemicals, and you can test on the regular and you see what kind of things your plants are needing, and you just dump them into the system. Instead of doing that, you can actually have something far more natural, which is if you have certain breeds of fish, some breeds of fish work better than others, but if you have fish in the system, the fish, they eat food and they excrete out through their gills nitrogen in a form that's really good for the plants. They also excrete waste, and what you have to do though is in like that medium where the roots are, you have a very particular kinds of bacteria that take the waste, that take the nitrogen, and they process it into a way that plant roots can absorb them. And the cool thing is like hydroponics, a lot of plants grow better, like faster, bigger. The nice thing with this is if you set it up in the right way, you can actually take like your regular waste, like food waste and other kinds of waste. You can have basically things eat that, and then you can have smaller fish eating like those molds, the things that break down the biological matter. The fish eat that. You have little fish, you have bigger fish eat them, and you have this like closed loop system. Well, it's not quite closed loop, but it's pretty close. And you can also eat the fish. So it's one of those, you can get protein and a lot of your vitamins here.
I don't know. So basically, I found that super cool, and after seeing Create Life, that's what the ship is. It's definitely going to be something that has a ton of food on it, something that would help feed more people than it would house. Part of me thinks that our main character at one point likely was using this in some way. I think if they have the ship, it also came in handy for something else. I'm not sure what that is. We'll find out when we find out the background. So, speaking of backgrounds, we've got one last thing to set up this world, and that is, where are we beginning? And there's a section here immediately after character creation called Building a Starting Sector. So what is a sector? Directly from the book, a sector is a settled or explored area of space. In the fiction of your setting, sectors are named and provide the people of the Forge a common means of identifying a location or mapping the domains of a power faction. For example, someone might say the Bleakhold Station in the Devil's Maw. So your character would need more precise charts or coordinates to actually pinpoint the station in the Devil's Maw sector, but it's a start. Basically, we are going to create the starting area of space that's been at least somewhat settled for us. Step 1 is choosing your starting region. And now, to backtrack a little bit, just explain what the different areas are. You've got the terminus, which is where initially the Exodus landed, and these are settlements are relatively common. Spaceborne routes between communities are usually well charted. If you want to focus on interacting with other people and communities, start here. Then there's the Outlands, which is this region represents an area of recent expansion. Settlements are scattered, and navigational paths are often uncharted and perilous. If you envision yourself as a spacer on a wild frontier, start here. And then there's the Expanse. Only a few bold pioneers have delved these far-flung reaches. If you're ready to face the dangers of lonely exploration within uncharted space, start here. And then there's the Void. In the reaches beyond the Forge, isolated stars are separated by vast gulfs of nothing. Travel and settlement here is impractical, if not impossible. Don't start your campaign here. So, I'm actually going to break this up. Sounds like the Outlands might be the better starting point, but because I'm trying to keep everything random, I'm gonna build a little table real quick. And it sounds like the game's kind of hinting for what I'm feeling a little bit towards the Outlands, but I want this to be random. So I'm doing the Terminus. So I'm gonna roll a d10, and I'm just slightly favoring the Outlands. So Terminus is gonna be 1 to 3. Outlands 4 through 7, and then 8, 9, and 10 are in the Expanse, but I rolled a 9. So we are in the Expanse, and step 2 is determine the number of settlements. In here is as a settlement, if we're in the Expanse, it should have 2 settlements. This isn't how we normally populate other sectors you'll explore. This just gives us something manageable for this exercise. So we've got 2 settlements to worry about, and we're going to generate, for step 3, generate settlement details. And we're going to use the settlement oracles on page pages 160 through 163. And our first roll tells us our first settlement is going to be in deep space. Its population is in the dozens, and oh yeah, and then here's where I made a weird mistake in my creation of this, is I rolled twice on the authority table, which are only supposed to roll once. And so I rolled that the authority of the station is both oppressive and fair. So yeah, that was probably very silly and stupid. We rolled that it has beautiful architecture, and obvious social stratification. So this is where the fair thing did not make any sense to me. And then we look at the settlement projects, which are defense and pacifism, and we get the settlement name Sirocco. So here's the weird part. I have this written down, but I don't have a numerical roll that went with it, and I don't see Sirocco on the settlement name list. So I don't know where I got this name, but that's the name. So yeah, sorry about that. And then we do have a second settlement, and they are an orbital station. So since they're an orbital station, they have to be in orbit around something. So what is that? They are around a Jovian world, so a big gas ball. Tyrannus is the name of the Jovian world, and floating around it is Sylvana. So Sylvana is an orbital station around the Jovian world of Tyrannus. There are hundreds of people living in they are a tolerant authority. At first look, they are a multi-level building in a defensible position, and they work on medical and salvage. Their settlement trouble is they have been betrayed from within. So let's look into what Tyrannus is. So it's the Jovian planet, and we get that it has a breathable atmosphere for some strange reason. It has powerful magnetic fields and severe electrical storms. Those two seem to go together. There are floating islands, diverse life, and safe creatures. And the main thing here is that it also orbits a white dwarf, which that's a little spooky, since I believe in our truths we were saying that some of the horrors are particularly dense. They seem to show up around white dwarf stars, which actually, since the thing they do medical knowledge, maybe that's part of why they're here. Oh, that might also be why it's more of a defensible position, is people don't want to go to systems with a white dwarf, because that's kind of freaky. Oh, and so we did step 4, which was generate planets. If any of the settlements are located on a planet or in orbit around a planet, you can identify and name the planet to help flesh out the nature of the location, which we did that. We generated the star. I created a sector map, which I've actually scanned, and I think I'll throw up on the web at some point. And then we create passages. Oh, okay, so one of the things I was thinking about this was, how do you get an oppressive but fair government with obvious social stratification? And the thing that came up to me was that maybe an AI is running the station, which of course is a little weird because AIs can't be near, like the energies of the Forge often corrupt them. So maybe what it is that this deep space station, it's in deep space away from the star because it doesn't want to be near any of the drifts. It doesn't want to be anywhere near the E-drives, and potentially there's some way to get, maybe they actually have some sort of protection so that E-drives don't work around it. So I like that. And maybe the idea there is that, they do defense and pacification. So part of what I was thinking, how I connected it all, is that unfortunately, there's an AI that runs the station. There are kind of more droids there that actually keep actually maybe you don't. yeah, there are droids there that can actually like physically withhold people and whatnot. But I think part of it too is the thing that I came up with is that all of the humans wear collars that actually like monitor all of the workers and will actually pacify them. What happened was the AI had decided that the equality was important and strongly, oppressively enforces it. So all humans have to wear these collars. Basically, they police everyone very hard, and part of that is like the AI probably it's an advanced AI where it has algorithms that kind of see farther into the future, so it's constantly manipulating the populace that way. Again, that was due to a screw up on my end for rolling on the authority table twice, but I did, and we're still going with it. Oopsie daisies. And then step 8 for creating a settlement or a starting sector is zoom in on a settlement, which I already did. And that was do the first look and the settlement trouble, which is why we know that Sylvana is having trouble from being betrayed from within. And now we're going to create a local connection. A connection represents an important relationship with a non-player character, NPC. You will create connections with NPCs, advance those relationships over the course of your narrative, forge bonds, yada yada. It's explaining how to do all that, and you should give your connection a role, give them a rank, and then at the end we give the sector some trouble, which is Raider Clan emerges as a dominant threat under a new leader. And the name of the sector is the Delphi Reach. Now, I skipped over something here. If you are following along with the book somehow, which is create a local connection. We didn't actually do that. I did mention it earlier, but I skipped it initially because I did something different than the book actually suggests. So there's a book that I'm using, which I cannot actually recommend to you, the listener, for 2 reasons. One, it is out of print and it's super expensive. I actually picked this up at the Trove.is. It's a great website with just a ton of role-playing books archived. I usually end up buying the books that I really love, but it gives me a way to try the books. But on top of that, the bigger factor, which is something I've actually manipulated out of the book, which is the book is somewhat homophobic. It's just it has some there's actually a little warning in the book about how it's all about these Christian values and whatnot. And if you're Christian, that's fine, but it's very much anti-gay. It's problematic. And I have made some notes where basically if like some of the negative traits that will pop up. It's a book of just tables where you just roll, and it gives you all these weird details about characters. But I've changed some of the things where some of the negative traits are that they're homosexual, and I changed specifically that one. Instead of being homosexual, they're homophobic. And things like that. So I've made some changes like that. We get some weird rolls with this, and in the end, a bunch of this is stuff that our main character isn't going to know, but I feel is going to help me. I need to know something about a character at least. Even if it's not mine, there needs to be somebody to play off of. And so I did use the name generator because there's not a name generator in the other book. And plus I want to kind of keep the names in the theme here. And it's Ulan Finn. And we find out through using the central casting Heroes for Tomorrow that his mother died young. His father supported him and 4 siblings. He is the youngest. At age 6, he was blackmailed over the safety of family and became a bandit. At the age of 6, he became a skilled thief. At age 10, he's noticed by an alien race and groomed. So in our world, so the book just says an alien race. We only have one alien race that we know anything about that's still active in the Forge, and that's the Essentia. And so he was groomed by them somehow. At age 11, he watches a grandparent die in front of them. At age 12, he fell in love with an android, which I'm not really sure how that totally works. But, at age 14, he developed skills in holography, like manipulating holograms. We find out he knows the Essentia language. Oh, and he is actively spying for the alien race. So he is currently spying for the Essentia in this region of space. And he's at the station, Sylvana, which we know that their problem is they've been betrayed from within. Interesting connection there. I wonder if we'll have that work together. Oh, and then we had one more role, which was his motivation, or came up with an event happened that scared him, which was 3 years ago. Ulan witnessed the Essentia create a being of pure energy that he fears and hates. But somehow he witnessed this, and it seems to have turned Ulan against the Essentia, at least to some point. That's his main motivation. Yeah, so there we have it. We have our contact. We have Ulan. Is there, and the fact that Ulan, I think he's underground. Like, I think part of the way he gets away with some of his contacting or being in connection with the Essentia is that he comes off as somebody who's like, maybe I rolled to see if people believed he studies them as a hobbyist, and I thought it was like 50-50. Came up that he was. So people know he has a connection with them. They don't know how deep it is. I don't believe... Oh, and then I wrote that our main character has no clue about that. He just knows that Ulan is on the station. Oh, and I wrote his role is he's an engineer. So I think he actually works not because of the Essentia stuff on the station. I think that's like his other gig is that he part-time... I think... And we mentioned earlier in the world building that knowledge is we lost a lot of knowledge, and knowledge is the most expensive, most valuable resource, and I think he deals in knowledge about the Essentia too. So he's like a double agent. But I think that, so for me, the fact that we know all the life, generally speaking, in the Forge that's not human was actually created by the Essentia, that he has this parasite, however he came in contact with it, it makes sense that somehow he was on his way to Ulan because of the parasite. But the question is whether or not that was from before, or like was it always the plan to come here, or did he find it and Ulan is the only Essentia expert he knows? I don't know. We're gonna play to find out. Intro and outro stolen from Cakewalkin' Babies from Home by One Nickel Jazz Band. Everything else by me. Or the new tabletop role-playing game Ironsworn Starforged by Shawn Tomkin. Thank you so much for listening.
To learn what happens, keep listening. This show is brought to you ad-free by privilege. No ads, no Patreon, just a cishet white man with disposable income and time. It is performed, edited, and all that good stuff by Redstone Archender. The story is powered by the game Ironsworn Starforged by Shawn Tomkin. Outro by Glitter Snitchel, channeling the spirits. This has been a Sofa King Cool production.